Did Maria Thompson act in self-defense, a desperate act of survival against a violent husband, or was it a calculated execution, a betrayal of the law she swore to uphold? The truth lies buried beneath layers of conflicting accounts and unanswered questions. August 9, 2019, Loxahatchee, Florida. The tranquility of a suburban morning was shattered by a 911 call. Maria Thompson, a Customs and Border Protection agent, reported shooting her husband Terry. Her words, devoid of emotion, painted a chilling picture. "I just shot him. He was trying to kill me." The scene that unfolded was gruesome. Terry Thompson lay dead, riddled with bullets. Maria's calm demeanor and the clinical precision of her actions raised immediate suspicion. Was this a desperate act of self-preservation or something far more sinister? To understand the events of that fateful morning, we must delve into the troubled history of the Thompsons' marriage. What began as a promising romance gradually devolved into a cycle of abuse and control. Maria, then a young college student, was captivated by Terry's charisma. Their relationship progressed quickly, but warning signs soon emerged. Terry's controlling behavior escalated, dictating Maria's life and eroding her self-worth. The emotional abuse was relentless, chipping away at Maria's spirit. Terry's criticisms became constant, targeting her appearance, her parenting, and her capabilities. This verbal torment was punctuated by acts of physical violence. One incident, fueled by Terry's jealousy, marked a turning point. He accused Maria of infidelity and physically assaulted her. This act of violence, initially shocking, became a recurring pattern in their relationship. The hours leading up to the shooting are shrouded in ambiguity. Maria claims that a heated argument erupted, escalating into a life-threatening situation. She alleges that Terry threatened her life, leaving her with no other choice but to defend herself. However, the prosecution argues that the evidence contradicts Maria's claims. The crime scene lacked signs of a struggle, and inconsistencies in her account cast doubt on her self-defense plea. The public must weigh the evidence carefully. Detectives meticulously examined the scene, searching for clues that would reveal the truth. Terry's body lay on the living room floor, riddled with 9 gunshot wounds. The location of the wounds and the absence of a weapon near Terry raised serious questions. 9 .40 caliber shell casings were recovered, evidence of the deadly force used. A bulletproof vest lay nearby, a chilling reminder of the dangers Maria faced in her profession. The prosecution's case rests on the assertion that Maria fabricated her self-defense claim. They point to the lack of evidence supporting her account of a struggle and the inconsistencies in her statements to investigators. The absence of a weapon within Terry's reach further undermines Maria's defense. The prosecution argues that the evidence suggests a calculated act of violence, not a desperate attempt to survive. The defense argues that Maria acted in self-defense, driven by years of abuse and a genuine fear for her life. They present evidence of Terry's controlling behavior, his verbal abuse, and his history of physical violence. The defense contends that Maria was trapped in a cycle of abuse, fearing for her safety and believing that she had no other way out. They argue that her actions were a desperate attempt to protect herself from a credible threat. Maria claimed that Terry threw a remote control at her during the final argument. However, investigators found no evidence of a displaced remote, casting doubt on her account. This discrepancy is a key point of contention in the case. The prosecution argues that the missing remote is further evidence of Maria's fabrication. The defense, however, suggests that the remote may have been moved or overlooked during the investigation. The Thompson children, aged 6 and 7, were present in the house during the shooting. Their testimony, though limited, offers a glimpse into the chaotic events of that morning. Their words are a stark reminder of the tragedy's impact on innocent lives. The oldest child reportedly heard the gunshots, a traumatic experience that will undoubtedly leave lasting scars. The children's well-being is paramount, and their future hangs in the balance. Did Maria plan to kill Terry, or was her action a spontaneous response to an immediate threat? The question of premeditation is central to the case. The prosecution argues that the evidence suggests a deliberate act, while the defense maintains that it was a reaction to a life-threatening situation. The number of gunshot wounds, the location of the wounds, and Maria's calm demeanor after the shooting all raise questions about her intent. Law enforcement officers faced a difficult task in investigating this case. They had to balance the need to gather evidence with the sensitivity of the situation, knowing that their actions would have a profound impact on the Thompson family. The detectives meticulously examined the crime scene, interviewed witnesses, and gathered evidence to determine the truth. Their dedication to upholding justice is commendable, but their conclusions are not beyond scrutiny. The Murcott Drive tragedy has ignited a fierce debate in the community. Was Maria Thompson a victim of abuse who acted in self-defense, or was she a cold-blooded killer who betrayed her oath to uphold the law? The public is divided, and the case raises complex questions about domestic violence, self-defense, and the limits of justice. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences of abuse. Help raise awareness about the complexities of domestic violence and the importance of seeking help. Engage in respectful dialogue. Discuss the case with your friends, family, and community members, considering all perspectives. Support domestic violence organizations. Donate your time or resources to organizations that provide support and resources to victims of abuse. Seek help if you are in an abusive relationship. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or professional for help. The case of Maria Thompson is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. What began as a seemingly loving relationship devolved into a decade-long nightmare of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. This script aims to provide a comprehensive overview of the case, exploring the legal arguments, the psychological factors, and the societal implications of a woman pushed to her breaking point. Our purpose is to examine the complexities of battered spouse syndrome and its impact on perceptions of self-defense, contributing to a deeper understanding of this critical issue. The relationship between Maria and Terry Thompson was characterized by a disturbing pattern. Initial incidents of violence were followed by Terry's apologies and promises of change, leading Maria to repeatedly forgive him. This cycle of abuse became a constant presence in their lives, punctuated only by brief periods of respite during Maria's pregnancies. The couple's marriage in August 2008 marked the beginning of a decade-long ordeal that would ultimately end in tragedy. The violence was not an isolated incident, but a pervasive element that shaped Maria's reality. Following Terry's death, Maria was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Her defense team invoked Florida's Stand Your Ground laws, arguing that she acted in self-defense due to battered spouse syndrome and post-traumatic stress disorder. However, their attempts to have the charges dropped were unsuccessful. The legal proceedings highlighted the challenges of applying self-defense laws in cases involving long-term domestic abuse. The central question became whether Maria's actions were justified by an imminent threat to her life. During the trial in the summer of 2024, prosecutors acknowledged the years of abuse Maria had endured. However, they argued that the crime scene suggested premeditation, not self-defense. They asserted that the history of abuse, while undeniable, did not negate the fact that no immediate threat existed on the morning of August 9th. The prosecution emphasized that the altercation was primarily verbal and that Maria had retreated to her bedroom for 15 minutes before the shooting. This time, they argued, allowed for reflection and a calculated decision, not a spontaneous act of self-preservation. Defense counsel Jessica Michel countered that Maria's years of living with Terry had heightened her ability to perceive danger. She argued that Maria knew with absolute certainty that she was in imminent danger the moment Terry arrived home. According to the defense, Terry's demeanor and final threat, "If you come out of that room, I'm going to kill you," justified Maria's actions. The defense maintained that Maria, dressed in her uniform and armed with her duty weapon, acted in self-defense to protect her life. This perspective highlighted the psychological impact of long-term abuse on a victim's perception of threat. The state's key witness, crime scene reconstructionist Daniel Steelman, testified that the evidence contradicted Maria's claims. Based on bloodstain patterns and ballistics, he concluded that Terry had not even stood up before being shot 9 times. Steelman also testified that no weapon was found near Terry, and there were no documented instances of physical abuse in the period leading up to his death. This testimony challenged the defense's narrative of imminent danger and suggested a more calculated act. Forensic psychologist Michael Brandon testified that Maria suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and battered spouse syndrome. He explained that a battered woman's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger, making it crucial to consider Maria's subjective experience rather than solely focusing on whether Terry was actually armed. Brandon emphasized that Maria believed Terry had access to weapons and had used them to threaten her in the past. This testimony aimed to provide the jury with a deeper understanding of the psychological effects of long-term abuse. Testimony revealed that Terry, despite accusing Maria of infidelity, was engaging in extramarital affairs. Teresa, a former girlfriend of Terry's, testified about a confrontation where she held a kitchen knife while speaking to Maria's voicemail. This testimony painted a picture of Terry as a man capable of violence and deception, adding another layer of complexity to the case. It suggested that Terry's behavior was not simply a matter of verbal abuse, but a pattern of manipulation and control. Teresa's testimony detailed Terry's manipulative and threatening behavior, including incessant phone calls, unfounded accusations of infidelity, and threats to her life. She also described financial exploitation. Terry's ex-wife, Melissa, was also prepared to testify for the defense, but her testimony was deemed inadmissible. Instead, the defense presented a series of witnesses, including friends and family members, who had witnessed Terry's abusive behavior firsthand. These accounts reinforced the defense's argument that Maria lived in constant fear. Maria Thompson herself took the stand, spending 2 days detailing her harrowing experience. She described how she became trapped in a relationship with an older, controlling man, and how Terry's physical abuse escalated over time. Maria testified about the relentless verbal abuse and the physical toll it took on her body. She explained that she didn't leave Terry because she believed she could not survive without him, echoing Dr. Brennan's testimony that women who leave their abusers are at a greater risk of violence. Her testimony provided a deeply personal and emotional account of the abuse she endured. Maria recounted the final hours leading up to the shooting, describing how she tried to calm Terry down, but was met with more abuse and threats. After threats were made towards her children, Maria began taking them to work with her to ensure their safety. She testified that she was 100% sure she was going to die that night, and that she believed Terry would kill her even if she called the police. This testimony highlighted the desperation and fear that drove Maria to take action. During closing statements, the prosecution emphasized the premeditated nature of the first-degree murder charge, arguing that Maria had 15 minutes to calm down before shooting Terry. The defense painted a different picture of those 15 minutes, arguing that it was a period of increasing panic and worry for her children. The defense maintained that Maria acted in self-defense, believing that she had no other choice to protect her life. The closing arguments encapsulated the central conflict of the trial, whether Maria's actions were a calculated act of murder or a desperate attempt to survive. The Maria Thompson case serves as a critical examination of the complexities inherent in domestic violence cases, particularly when self-defense is invoked. It compels us to consider the long-term psychological impact of abuse and how it shapes a victim's perception of danger. The case raises profound questions about the application of legal standards in situations where the lines between victim and perpetrator become blurred by years of trauma. We urge you to delve deeper into the issue of domestic violence. Research local resources and support organizations that provide assistance to survivors. Advocate for policies that protect victims and hold abusers accountable. Share this script to raise awareness and spark conversations about the complexities of domestic violence and self-defense. Your actions can make a difference in the lives of those affected by abuse. Your support fuels our mission to shed light on the darkness, to understand the incomprehensible, and to honor the victims by remembering their stories. So, subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Let's journey together into the crime depths.